Real leadership isn't about titles. It's about the work it takes to earn your place. Showing up, staying when it's uncomfortable, doing the work long before anyone notices. Pull up a chair. This is A Seat at the Table with Melynda Brant and Ashley Stroud.
And welcome to our very first show, A Seat at the Table. Have you ever thought about starting your own business? Wondered what it really takes to stay in business? Where do you even start? What does it take to work your way into leadership? That's what the show is about. And I am so thrilled to be joined by Ashley Stroud. She's going to be my co-host from here on out for every series that we have. But not only is she a co-host, she owns a business. She knows what it takes, and she is the inaugural guest. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Melynda. I'm just honored to be here today. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something that I think needs more awareness brought to it, and I'm happy to have a seat at the table and be co-hosting this with you. I'm very excited about the conversations that we're going to have and the impact that we can have with listeners.
And I wanted to delve into that. This first section kind of set up what people can expect from this show. As we've been promoting it, it has been about really what is the story behind the story. A lot of times people just see, oh, okay, here's the leadership. They've made it to the point that they want to be, but don't realize exactly what all it takes. And you know that firsthand, what all it takes. And I wanted to delve into that just a little bit, and we will get into it. But I also wanted to say, you and I, we were brought this idea by Mark in sales here at KLBJ, and thought it was a fantastic idea. Maybe not the way he envisioned it, but we sat with it for a while. And we thought, yes, we really want to be a part of it. And the part of highlighting women in particularly, we liked, not because they're women, but because they have earned in some pretty difficult fields. You being one of those, being an owner of a plumbing company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes we do see people's lives on a highlight reel. That's pretty common in all areas of our life. And it's no different in business. People will a lot of times highlight all the great things that are going and when they've arrived at this level of success. But there is so much grit and determination, and there's hard knocks along the way. And I've definitely lived through some of those. I'm not saying that I've arrived by any means, but I've lived through a lot of them. And I love sharing and imparting that wisdom to other people. And I do think that we discussed this at length about, should it just be focused on women and why? And we wrestled with that a little bit, I think, back and forth. But ultimately, there's a few reasons why I think it's so important to really highlight women on this. And it's not just to celebrate success or just to, be happy about it for no good reason, right? It's the fact that women, they generally juggle a lot. And what I told you when we were talking about this show is that women's pathway to success it's always not linear. The stories that we're going to be able to hear from these different women that were lining up for this show, they all have very unique arrivals at where they're at and what they're doing. And their stories are inspiring and they're empowering, and they're just not as linear as sometimes that you see with the male counterparts. But above that too, there's just, there's with AI coming in, I was thinking about this the other day with AI coming in, and I was reading some statistic that almost 75% of the top 5 jobs that AI is going to be so quickly to replace, it's predominantly women's roles, right? It's data entry, it's customer service. And so I think this is the prime time to empower women, especially younger women, to look into areas of leadership and business ownership and whatever that might look like, because leadership is never going to be taken over by AI. Like, it is AI proof. So I think this is a prime time to highlight those women, and hopefully some of our listeners can just see themselves, right? They can see what it looks like, what it takes to get there, and see themselves in those shoes.
Yeah, and that's my hope for this too, is that it would encourage or motivate someone to take that step, whether it is you have an idea and no idea how to start it. Perhaps this will help you launch into what you've always dreamed of. Or maybe you've just been kind of timid or shy at your current position, wanting to move up, but just don't know how to go about it. So hopefully we can bring that encouragement, maybe change things for people that are trying to figure it all out still.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also talked about that I didn't exactly want this audience to only be women either. I think that men listeners that are joining in with this today, they can learn a lot from these stories too. Women bring a unique perspective to boardrooms, and they bring a unique perspective to family businesses. They bring empathy and attention to detail and things that I think that if men are not accepting and trying to attract women into those leadership circles, they're probably missing out on an angle and a perspective that, there's a lot there to have. So hopefully our male listeners too can get some insight and kind of broaden their horizons on some of the amazing things that women bring to the table.
And we don't want it just to be about insight. We do want it to be interactive. And that is why we're doing a live show so that you can call in. Maybe you have questions or just want to make a comment. That works as well, as long as we keep it, we got to keep things nice. Don't don't go crazy. And our number is 512-836-0590. And you can join us during this show. You can join us from any show here on out. We are hoping that this will change things for people, just open eyes maybe that you haven't even considered. And again, I'm all about the story behind the story. So I do want to delve into that with you, Ashley.
Okay.
I know that you are, I'm going to get a little personal real quick. You're a mom of 5.
I am. Yes. It's my greatest accomplishment in life. Out of everything, motherhood has been what I hang my hat on. So I will live by that by the day I die. And my kids are probably listening to this right now. And yeah, mama loves you.
Well, and I bring that up because, again, you touched on it just a little bit. When we're highlighting women, it falls mostly on women, or at least it appears that way, that they're the ones they're picking up the schedules and they're the more nurturing type. And so it does show that there's a whole lot of juggling that goes on, and it looks easy. I've known you for some time now, and I know what all is on your plate, and I have no idea how you do it. And this is coming from someone who doesn't have any kids, and I'm like, I just feel tired watching you. So it does play a huge role, I'm sure, in how you move about business. But before we get to your business, you started in a field that isn't even remotely close to plumbing.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
You're a UT grad, and you graduated nursing degree.
That's right. Yeah. UT Austin Nursing School of 2010 was my graduation date. And I knew from a really young age that I wanted to get into nursing. My mom was in the healthcare field, and it always, it just appealed to me. I have a heart that wants to help people. And so I was an adrenaline junkie, though, which was what led me to ER nursing. I knew that pretty quickly going into high school, that I needed something that was going to keep me on my toes, keep me busy, and challenge me in new ways every day. So while obviously the industries are markedly different, there's some easy crossovers in business ownership and ER nursing, especially. The every day is a new challenge to figure out, and the people interaction. And I mean, every single day you're learning how to communicate with different people who are much different than you, and you see them on their worst days. No one ever calls, hardly ever do we get people that call into plumbing outfitters and they're just really excited to talk to us. Like, nobody wants to call a plumber because they have a huge emergency at their house. Likewise, people don't want to go to the ER and need emergency health care. So yeah, there's a few crossovers, and I've felt a lot of times and then there's jokes too. I mean, Warren and I have had dinner conversations on just how much of a crossover there is between plumbing and nursing. That's probably for a different show. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a stretch, but what I love about different industries, especially just coming from the nursing world and then switching into a trades business with my husband, the acts of leadership, right? And what makes you a good leader in one field is very, it crosses over to every industry. So some of those things carried over really nicely.
Well, we're going to get a little bit more into that on how they carried over. Stay with us to Seat at the Table.
This is A Seat at the Table, where we talk about the work, the grit, and the moments that changed everything. Pull up a chair. The conversation continues.
And that conversation is with Ashley Stroud. She is my co-host for this series, but also the co-founder and chief operating officer at Plumbing Outfitters. And as we were just mentioning, your journey did not start in business. It started in an emergency room. However, you are now that co-owner and running Plumbing Outfitters. How did that come about? What was the switch that you said, you know what? Okay, I'm ready to drop this and move into this arena?
Yeah, well, I think the entrepreneurial bug kind of bit my husband first before it bit me. I actually had some, examples of business ownership growing up that didn't set a great taste in my mouth, right? I saw business owners in my family who were overworked. They could never unplug. They always had cash flow problems. So I didn't have a great experience, feeling like business was a great pathway. Didn't have a lot of successful people to look at and say, oh, this could work. Warren had just a lot more passion for it. He was at a spot in his company. He felt pretty confident in his abilities as a master plumber, and he was ready to kind of go out on his own. And so it was his idea. He was like, hey, let's do this. Let's go into business for ourselves and see what we can make of it. I'm always up for an adventure, right? Like I'm just an adventurous person in general. So that sounded like a fun adventure. And I was also at a point in my nursing career where it was kind of at the point where you either, go into management or you go back to school for, an advanced licensed practitioner. And neither one of those just really called to me. But the thought of really getting to develop people, that's always been our why. It was about how do we surround ourselves with great people? How do we pour into them? How do we take, a lot of our first hires were, younger guys, 18, 17, 19 years old. I mean, it was practically, I tell everybody, like, I had a great experience raising teenagers long before having teenagers, because I got to see them up close, right? Like the struggles and challenges of raising 19-year-old boys. It's fun. That always just, that called to me, that leadership and being able to raise up a team. So while plumbing, I guess, wasn't necessarily on my radar, any business opportunity I think that he would have provided to me, I would have probably jumped at it, because the chase of, growing something and building something impactful and meaningful and then touching people's lives and employing people, it called to me.
So did y'all both jump in at the same time, leave your current jobs and start together, or did he wade into the waters and you just kind of helped in the background and then said, okay, I'm all in too? Yeah,
we weren't quite as dauntless as just throwing caution to the wind. So he did jump in full time, and he did a really great job of networking, building great relationships with people, and just growing our reach organically. And I was pretty much doing all back office. After work, I'd come home on the evenings, I'd work on things, just keeping the business afloat, trying to figure out how we grew our reach and, get into new markets or just overall kind of growing the company. But it was about 7 months. Well, oddly enough, we actually got pregnant with my third son about 2 months after we started the business. That was a shock. And I remember just like crying, like, oh my, how am I going to handle this? Like, we just started this business. So the first year was kind of sketchy. We ended up hiring like our first CSR pretty early on. She worked part-time for us to help answer phone calls. And it was probably about a year and a half before I fully like hung up my nursing hat and went in full-time with a business. But I mean, along the way, I was definitely there helping make decisions and leading. It just was not for insurance purposes and for the fact that we felt obviously very it needed to have income coming in, steady income coming in with 3 kids. We felt like we needed that. So I stuck it out for nursing for a while, but once we got established, it was pretty clear that this is my new path. So.
Well, and you said that you had some examples of people that owned their business prior. Did that give you the knowledge of where to start? I know a lot of people think, I've got this fantastic idea. I just want to turn it into a business, but then what?
Yeah.
What's the first step to doing that?
Yeah, I don't think, I wouldn't say the examples I had were solid enough. They actually, probably most of people were like, hey, going into business for yourself is a headache. I was probably discouraged from my general sphere of influence for the most part. So, but Warren had some good examples of like business operations working well. He had an uncle that had a successful ranch. And so he got to see, some of that hard work pay off and how that business could multiply and grow. His dad also was a truck driver and did really well for himself for a few years. He ran into rough times and as taxes grew really heavy. So that was kind of a downfall. But no, I wouldn't say anybody in our immediate sphere of influence was able to kind of give us great pointers to starting out. So I tell everybody we kind of bootstrapped it and we just figured it out as we went along, right? It's just it's a learning as you go, and there's no difference than today. I still feel like the same grit, the same determination, the same, I'm going to get up and I'm going to figure this out today. And whatever comes my way, I will figure it out, because there is nothing to do but to figure it out. That mentality, you have to have that at startup, but it can never go away. Like, you have to wake up every morning with that attitude of this, like, whatever comes my way, I will figure it out and I'll deal with it and I'll climb the next hurdle. I'll jump it. We'll figure it out. Somebody told me a couple years back, and it always stuck with me. It's business ownership is, it's not the race to the top. It's just the last man standing, right? Like you have to have an incredible amount of grit and perseverance to be a business ownership, especially in this economy and in this job market, and with everything that we're up against. You just have to have a whole lot of I'm not gonna quit to you. So,
well, and because I have known you for some time, I've seen some of that journey, and especially in the plumbing world, we went through COVID. Where there were constraints on supplies being able to come in. But also we went through in 2021, that big hard freeze where a lot of people had plumbing issues. That was compounded with the supply issues. How do you get through something like that? I'm sure it's just one day at a time until you're finally on the other side of it. But that had to be a true test of, can we keep this going?
Right. Yeah. I would say some of those hurdles you face in business are operational hurdles that you have to figure out. Some of them are just scaling issues, right? So for instance, like the freeze, obviously we were in high demand at that point. So it wasn't necessarily a matter of how do we get the phones to ring and how do we serve our customers. But for instance, I can remember the data like it was yesterday. We were on average taking probably 40 calls like to our company, that like for a day, average day, we were taking 40 to 70 calls. We had 2 CSRs answering phone calls. And so there wasn't a whole lot of phone obviously ringing. That week of the freeze, we were answering on average, we were getting about 1,100 phone calls per day. So it was insane. We were trying to do it without electricity. A lot of our people were at home without water. We were trying to all mobily work. But it's in those moments, right, where you just take a breath and you just say, okay, we're going to figure this out. It's one day at a time. It's one moment at a time. It's what's the next best step, and you work it out. And so that's been my philosophy, is kind of just jump in. You're not always going to know the right answer. You don't. Like, business owners don't have all the right answers. You just have to have the mindset that if it's not right, you pivot and you go on to the next best idea and you keep working at it until you've solved the problem.
So has there ever been any point during this journey that you and your husband sat down and said, okay, we've been trying this for a while. We've been up against a lot of obstacles that have come our way. Do we want to continue on?
Wait, were you at our dinner table last night? I feel like you were.
Is that a nightly conversation?
Yeah. No, it's obviously, I feel like it's weirdly enough, we generally hit each other on different times. Like I'll be in that mood where I'm like, this is exhausting. This is such a strain. It's so much pressure. And then he'll reframe it for me, right? And he'll take the lead on like, yes, but this is our why. This is what we're doing. Keep things in perspective. And then the very next day, it'll switch, right? And he'll be the one that's like, this is not where we could go to work for somebody else and have so much less stress and headaches. So we generally take turns on being the pitiful, poor pitiful me. But it's a conversation. I think anybody who says they don't have those moments, I would question their like legitimacy. I don't believe that that's the case. I think that every person gets faced with that. And yeah, you have to have a pretty strong why. You have to have a pretty valid reason as to why you get up every morning and try to keep figuring it out. Because every day is something new to figure out, and it can feel, especially I think my biggest, I guess, caveat to this is that if you surround yourself with, really great people, and that's one thing I'd recommend to anybody going into business, is find mastermind groups. Find people that are in a similar sphere, in a similar circle, who are facing similar obstacles. Plug into those groups and then just lean on them like all the time, because maybe you don't have a family that has business, or maybe you don't have any of those just, generic kind of organic people in your sphere of influence, but there are people out there that you can plug into. And Warren and I are both in multiple groups where we're having a rough day, or we're trying to figure something out. You don't have to do it alone. Like, find a great tribe of people and surround yourself with them and lean into them. And that's been a blessing for us, is to be able to have those people in our lives that we can say like, oh man, today is one of those days. Like, somebody remind me why I'm doing this.
Definitely a support system for sure. Going into plumbing, you decided it wasn't enough just to be co-owner of the plumbing company. You decided to go ahead and get your plumbing license and move forward with that. When we come back from the break, I want to delve into that a little bit more to see why it was so important to you to make sure that you know all the hands-on. You can do this. Yeah. So we're going to have more of that with Ashley from Plumbing Outfitters here at A Seat at the Table on KLBJ.
Everyone wants a seat. Few know what it takes to earn one. The long road, the hard lessons, the moments that define real leadership. That's what we talk about here. You're listening to A Seat at the Table.
Welcome, I'm Melynda Brant, and this is our very first edition of A Seat at the Table. I'm joined by my co-host, Ashley Stroud, who is doing double duty tonight. Not only is she the co-host for this series, she's my inaugural guest, or our inaugural guest. She is the owner. She also helps run her company of Plumbing Outfitters with her husband. And right before the break, I wanted to find out, a lot of people could have said, okay, my husband, he is already the master plumber. We're going to start this business and I'll just do the business end of it and let him do that. You did not do that. You said, no. Let me become a licensed journeyman plumber, and then even went on to get your master's license. Why did you feel important to do that?
Yeah. It was a matter of, I wanted to have some authority in the field, right? I wanted to be able to have a conversation with our vendors or our customers or our team. And I felt like it was just a matter of respect, right? I have a healthy respect for the trades. And so it felt like my way of saying, this is important work. I'm not just going to look at it from the outside, but I want to get into it. And I want to have, some authenticity and some actual, just back up what I say with some actual licensing. So that was kind of the personal decision that I ran with there. And yeah, it was interesting. I think I may have told you this before, but the journeyman test I took, I was actually 7 months pregnant when I took the journeyman test for the plumbing licensing board down here in Austin. And I think I made such an impression. I'm literally waiting for me to get a plaque on their wall because of, I think it was very memorable. The journeyman test is difficult. It's part written test, but then there's a dollhouse that you have to plumb in. There's also hands-on skills that you have to do. And the one in particular, I was 7 months pregnant. I was so hot. It was so hot, and it probably wasn't that hot, but I was hot. And I was super emotional, and I was having a hard time with something, and I started to cry, which I don't cry ever. But 7 months pregnant with twins. And it was twins, by the way. I
extra
left that
hormones.
Out. Yeah, extra hormones. And I just remember the guy coming over to me, the instructor, and he was like, are you okay? How many women do they see come through the doors? How many pregnant women do they see come through the doors? And then how many 7-month pregnant women? This is like a trifecta. And I was like, yeah, I don't have the core strength to get this gas. I was trying to thread gas pipe, and I was having a really tough time with it. And he was so kind. He was like, can you just walk me through what you're trying to do? And I told him, and he was like, okay, I'm going to give you a little assistance here. So if he's listening, thank you. Because I'm here today because of his kindness. But it was just a matter of, I kind of wanted to have like an ownership in the actual trade part. And I wanted to be able to have intelligent conversations. And it's proven to work in my favor, right? I love talking to our customers and being able to look up their invoice for their job and not being just completely out of the loop about what's going on. I don't think you necessarily have to. I don't think it's a prerequisite that if you're leading a company that you absolutely have to be licensed in that company or you have to know everything about it. But it was just a personal decision for me, and I'm super happy that I did it.
Well, with plumbing being a male-dominated field, did you think by taking that step, this may sound bad the way I'm about to frame it, but kind of set up that respect from those that you would be in the field with, or maybe even those that you have hired to work for you? Yeah.
I think maybe an aspect of that. Obviously, I'm not the person that's going to be in the field every day, and I don't even pretend to put myself on the same, level as those guys who are out there day in and day out. When it was 20 degrees last week in Austin, right? Our guys were out there digging, and they were putting pipe together, and you're not going to likely see me out there on a day like that, doing the plumbing work. So I try to give them a healthy respect for realizing that, obviously I have the license, but my focus is definitely more on building our business. But one thing I did one lane I think it helped me achieve was that I did want to be a beacon for women, because I think that there's such a void, especially in residential service for women. I think that they bring a lot that they can offer a trade, right? They have empathy, and what we talked about earlier, empathy and attention to detail, and they have a way of putting homeowners at ease that I think sometimes male technicians struggle with. So I really just wanted to be a beacon for women. I wanted them to be able to see somebody else in the field leading that charge and saying, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And I think that especially as we advance in AI technology, hopefully women start seeing trades as a viable career path that they can get into, because it's very AI proof, and there's a lot of great opportunities for women in the trades. So that was also kind of a big thing. I just wanted to be a beacon for other women who may look at the trades and say, hey, I could do that.
Have y'all had many females apply to work for your company?
We have not. And I just actually got my master's license in October. But that's one of my 2026 goals, is to be a little bit more visible and actually work on attracting women to our company. Because right now, we're still getting a lot of male applicants, and that's obviously expected. But we definitely want to keep that door open.
Well, in moving forward, you're very much a part in the company and making sure, advertising-wise, getting your name out there. I want you to speak a little bit on that part of it, because I think advertising and getting your name out has changed quite a bit than it was 20 years ago. People aren't looking necessarily to the same advertising methods as they were. A lot of it is social media and getting that engagement. How do you go about building that up to where you can tell it's made an impact or it's helped your business?
Well, that's an interesting question, Melynda, and I'm glad you brought it up. Marketing is actually one of my passions. I didn't even realize how passionate I was, and that I actually had a creative side until I started doing this for Plumbing Outfitters. But it's ironic that you say that. I almost think it's a little bit of a boomerang, because if you look at businesses maybe 40 years ago, they relied a lot on branding their company, and they kind of owned their backyard, right? That's the saying, own your backyard, a 5-mile radius of your company. It's kind of where you want to own. And they did. There was one plumber in town. That was the plumber that you went to, right? You knew who the electrician was. You knew who the mover, the roofer was, right? And then we kind of got into this digital age where so much focus was put on SEO and was put on Google pay-per-clicks and all of these.
For those of us that don't know, what's SEO?
Oh, yeah, search engine optimization. So it's if you go to Google and you search for, quality plumber near me, right? Who's going to show up? Well, it's people who've put a lot of effort into their digital marketing presence. And while I still think that is a viable way to earn business and it's important, I think we're actually moving a little bit back in time where branding is going to be more and more important, because it's hard to know who to trust, right? You can get Google recommendations and you can get seen all over Google, but how do you build that trust with your audience and with your customer base? And it's by being in the community. It's for them seeing you in the Christmas parade, right, with your massive float. It's them seeing you sponsor the Little League team and being present at the farmers markets and the pop-ups. When they see you in the community, that's how you gain that trust. So obviously, I think that there's a lot of avenues out there for getting your phone to ring and working the marketing scene. I'm a huge fan of social media. We have a really unique approach to our social media page. If you follow us, which I would love everybody to follow, we really don't try to attract customers. You'll very rarely ever see us post about plumbing. We just don't, because we're not trying to attract customers. We're figuring while you're scrolling through Facebook, you're probably not likely interested in the water heater that we just installed, right? But what you are interested in is our technicians and the stories that they have to tell and their personalities and the fun that we have in the office, or the newest, whatever we're trying to display, our culture and who we are as a company, because what we're really trying to get there is just connection. We want you to feel connected to our company long before you need us as a plumber. We want to build that trust early on. So I am a big fan of social media, but I think that some of the traditional efforts I see some of other people in the trades or other people in businesses in general just make it I don't know, I would say boring, right? It's like people aren't looking to see like what you do every day. They're looking to see who you are and what your core values are and what you're doing for the community. That's what makes them stay on your page.
It's kind of like reality TV. Everybody tunes in just to see what somebody else's so-called reality is.
Yeah, yes.
And then they get sucked in, and that's who you're going to remember.
That's right.
The first time you have a plumbing problem, oh, I saw them on social media. I like this team. I want to speak about your team. I know that you are very passionate about developing leaders inside your company. How does that look on a daily basis with your team?
That's an awesome question. And we are extremely passionate about leadership at our company. So the way that we designed our organization chart and like our vision map is we really wanted to establish leadership at every level. So no matter where you are on our organization chart, there is leadership potential for you in your role. For instance, let's think about apprentices. They come to us usually, right out of high school or fresh out of a different industry without any plumbing experience. And they're kind of this group of people, right? They're learning, they're green, they don't have a whole lot of plumbing knowledge. But even amongst them, we designate a lead apprentice, right? The person who is in charge of making sure that these technicians or that these apprentices stay the course. When they have questions about licensing, when they have questions about, whatever might be going on, they don't understand something. That's like their liaison. It's their person who they can go to. And that person has direct access to management and a one-to-one with them on a monthly basis to help grow them as a leader so that they can take the next step in whatever leadership role they want. And we make sure to make it super visible. Everybody in our company, my goal is for everybody to see themselves 5 years from now on our vision map. And so to allow for that, you have to continually scale. You have to continually grow your company so that even the highest people in your company can then look at the vision map and say, oh, I actually see myself here in 5 years. Like that's where I'm aiming for. So on a day-to-day basis, it looks like having, first of all, we really preach this like extreme ownership and personal accountability. You cannot lead anyone until you first learn to lead yourself, and you can't lead anyone better than how you are leading yourself. So we preach a lot of personal accountability and a lot of extreme ownership of situations. We don't part of our core values is accountability. So if you follow us on Facebook or you know anything about us, our core values are CHAMPS. It's character, humility, accountability, mindfulness, precision, and service. And that accountability piece is where it's at, right? It's a matter of you own your actions, you own your results, you own your consequences. Whatever you have done that day has set you up to either fail or succeed, but it all falls on you. Don't blame anybody else. Show up, own your actions. And so that's preached on a pretty daily basis to our team. And it shows up in ways like we don't enable people and we don't hold people's hands. We give them the tools they need to succeed. And we make sure that they know who they can contact and who their upline is and where they can get resources from. But we expect people to show up, own their actions, and be personally accountable to reaching whatever heights of success they want in their career.
You're listening to A Seat at the Table with Ashley Stroud. She is owner and COO of Plumbing Outfitters, and we will have more. Please stay tuned. We go until the top of the hour at 7. Right now it's 6:41 here on KLBJ.
A seat at the table is never given. It's claimed through endurance, sacrifice, and resolve. This is where the stories behind real leadership are told. This is A Seat at the Table.
And we are getting the story behind Plumbing Outfitters and one half of that husband-wife team. We're here with Ashley Stroud. This is A Seat at the Table. I'm Melynda Brant. And we have been talking about going from the ER to owning a plumbing company with your husband, what all it takes to get there, and then also inspiring others throughout your company to take the lead. When you see, and we mentioned this at the beginning, you are a mother of 5. When your children watch your life, what do you hope they learn from the work that you and your husband put into this business? That's
such a good question, and it's one I wrestle with pretty much every day, mostly because I think hopefully any working moms out there can relate, right? You always carry this mom guilt. Am I doing enough? Am I engaging with them enough? Am I pouring into them enough? Am I pouring into something else too much and not enough into them? So obviously what I hope that they see is that, that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to have all the answers. But it is never okay to give up. It's never okay to rest on your laurels. It's never okay just to say like, well, it's to just be blatantly just, not interested in improving yourself. So I want them to see mom and dad constantly trying to grow, right? I want them to see us with a growth mindset, not limiting beliefs and not allowing ourselves to be dragged down, but just continually trying to grow ourselves personally and then use our platforms in the very best way to impact people, to touch people's lives, and to use these blessings in a way that will bless others. Like that's what I want them to see. And hopefully they have they're going to have a great education on entrepreneurship and what it takes. But at the same time, like we have had a lot of conversations on whether or not like our kids are going to join our business. And I don't know that. Like we definitely are. That's not our exit strategy, is to hand over a ready-made business for them, because I think there's so much value in the grind. There's so much value in knowing that you have to like earn your seat at the table, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't steal that from them. I feel like that's the journey is where it's at, right? It's not the destination. It's definitely the journey that transforms you into a person that you didn't think you could be. So hopefully they just see mom and dad, constantly trying to improve themselves and be better leaders for those around them.
How do you define success now compared to when you started?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would say, I don't even know if I had a really great vision in mind for what success looked like when I first started. It was all just so, let's just go and try to get it done, right? People would ask us like, well, what are you trying to build? I'm like, I don't know what we're building. I have no idea what this vision is going to be. We started working with a business coach in 2021, and he was great. He owns Built for the Trades. And so we worked with him for a couple of years. And one of the things that he really instilled in us was like a clear vision, right? And if you don't have this vision of like what success looks like, then you'll never know if you arrived, right? You will always just be chasing that next unknown because you don't have this vision of success. So early on, I can't say I had a clear, and I think that was a downfall of us, that we didn't have a clear vision for what does success look like? When do we know like, hey, this is what we've built and we've arrived? So I would say success now, obviously we have great goals in place for our company, and we have huge aspirations to continue to grow our reach and into new markets. And so that's exciting. But, I would say that as you grow, you just start realizing that some of the things are just not as tangible, right? You can't always put a dollar sign on like what you've gained. And so success for me looks like our technicians purchasing their first home, right? It looks like our technicians or our CSRs, taking leadership roles outside of our company and in their organizations that they're a part of, or volunteering in the community, feeling empowered and feeling like they've been given tools to go out and impact the world. That's success, right? It's when you can multiply like your efforts and you can see those ripple effects of all of those good intentions rippling out and affecting a lot more people, exponentially further reach than what you could do yourself. I think that's success.
I would imagine that a lot of people starting a business would say, okay, my goals to be successful would be I have to hit a certain amount of revenue. I have to have so many clients. I have to have this. You just stated flexibility is a big part of that. What are the lessons that you've learned to give in to that, to say, okay, it's okay if you set those goals, but it's also okay if you don't meet
them.
Those?
Yeah, I think that's great. So we actually had this great conversation because we had some pretty lofty revenue goals in 2025. And we had year-over-year growth every single year since we started our company. So I was expecting 2025 to be no different. Some years were better than others, but we grew every single year. And then 2025, we ran into some hurdles that we hadn't faced before. Namely, we lost some really great technicians. They did what great technicians do, and they went and started their own companies. And that we were definitely on the wrong footing. Like we were not prepared for it. Even though we knew it was coming, we just had not prepared for it. It exposed kind of a big gap in our business that we had not focused heavily enough on recruiting. That's why, if you've noticed, when I come into the radio station, I record like specifically recruiting commercials, because it made me realize just how much like we were not promoting to recruit. So anyways, back to the original question, we did not hit our 2025 revenue goals. And I just remember going into December being just so deflated, right? I had this big goal for 2025. And not only did we not reach it, but we also had less, we did not have year-over-year growth for the first time in 7 years in business. And so, it took a lot of processing that and a lot of just coming to this realization that it is just a continuum journey. There's no, in business, I think you have to constantly realize that, yes, you set goals and yes, you strive for them. You do everything you can to hit them. And there's no excuses for not, but you also have to look at all the intangibles that you gained along the way, right? What did I learn in 2025 that made up for the lack of revenue, right? Well, I learned that recruiting was absolutely paramount to my business. And that alone, that knowledge, it cost, So what we didn't earn in revenue, we got back in knowledge of, what we could do to improve, holes that we could fill in our business. And that just sets you up for, as long as you don't give up and you keep going, then that knowledge will exponentially increase and you will have a return on that investment eventually. It's just a matter of being patient with yourself, giving yourself grace and getting up the next day and saying, okay, let's go. So what? We didn't hit 2025 goals. 2026, we're coming for you.
Well, and I was going to ask, if someone's feeling underestimated or stuck, what would be your advice to them? And I think you may have just touched on it just a little bit, is you got to keep going. But would knowing when to say, okay, this path is the wrong path. Yes, we spent money on it. We've got to cut and turn, pivot. Mm-hmm. That just as important?
Oh, absolutely. And I would say there are some people who are just naturally really good at knowing when the fork is and when to go for contingency, right? When to pivot. And then there's some people that are not. I wouldn't say that my strength is, I am one of those people. Goodness, Melynda, I don't even know what a contingency plan is. I go all in 100%. It's always just dead set. You could tell me this is not working and I'd be like, watch me, it will work. I will make this work. Thankfully, I'm joined with a really great business partner, Warren, who he contingency plans for everything, right? So he's generally one of those that are hey, this doesn't feel like it's working. And then it usually takes him a little while to convince me to abandon ship and jump. But I usually do, and then we get back on course. So I think having people to look over your blind spots, that doesn't necessarily have to be a business partner. If you're a solopreneur, then find a business coach who will also be that mentor for you to point out your blind spots and to say hey, I know that you're really devoted to this lane, but it's not working. And if you want to survive, you have to adapt and overcome. And those people are invaluable. And so if you're the kind of person that sees those pitfalls and you're fine with pivoting on a dime, then go for it. If you're not, if you are a little bit more set on a drive mode, then make sure you have people in your corner who are going to point out those blind spots to you.
And are business coaches easy to find? How do you even go about trying to determine what would be best for you? What would be a good fit for you and your company?
Yeah, there are obviously a lot of choices out there. I would recommend how I've seen it work really well in the past is find somebody in your industry. Maybe it's not even necessarily in your local industry, but find somebody in your industry and have a conversation with them. How did you get to where you are, and who's been the most helpful for you? Usually they'll tell you oh, I'm working with this business coach. This is great. I've given a ton of referrals to our business coach because people ask me how did you get here? And I'm well, the first thing you need to do is you need to call, build for the trades. You need to get on their schedule. But I've also done that. I've seen this on, LinkedIn. There's great connections to be had on LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn and search for business coaches and follow them for 6 months, 8 months on LinkedIn. Get to know them. What are they What are they teaching? What are they spouting out? And if it's in alignment with who you are and what your core values are, then reach out to them. It's not hard to find a business coach. And you also have to be flexible enough to say, hey, this relationship is not working for me, and then find a new one, right? If it doesn't work, then you pivot.
Find a better
fit. Find a better fit.
Okay, I want to spend the last couple of minutes because the show has gone by really fast, but we're going to do a quick hit round.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, and you just kind of
comes to mind.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, one fear you had to outgrow.
Failure. I don't know if I've outgrown it, but I am working on it. Yeah, fear of failure for sure.
And one failure that has shaped you.
One failure that has shaped me. I would say I have had relationships like with vendors that I've let go on too long, just loyalty wise. And I have let them go because I just have felt obligated to stay with them. And finally, at some point, I found my voice and I found like, hey, I can still really like you and we can still have a great relationship, but we have to part ways. And so like, I think that failing in those efforts for a few times taught me to be a little bit more, just a little bit more proactive and making sure that our vendors were in alignment with what we needed.
One habit you refuse to compromise.
Working out. Yeah, that's been a new habit that I've started in the last 18 months. I've been incredibly diligent of filling up my cup with working out. And I try to do it at least every day, 30 minutes to an hour. I have a great accountability partner to keep me on track for this. And it's just been an investment in my health. And I can show up as a better person for my team and my kids when I, first of all, put like the work in to work out. So yeah, I would say that's a habit I'm not willing to compromise on. It's time blocked on my calendar and I don't miss an appointment with myself at the gym.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, you have brought others from your company in on it, that y'all do it together, even set up a room to where y'all can work out.
We do. That was Warren's vision. He was dead set on an employee gym, which I was a hard sell for me at first. I was like, are you serious? We have a 3,600 square foot warehouse and you want to literally devote like 1,600 square feet to an employee gym. And he was like, yes, this is our recruiting effort. This is our recruiting tool. This is what we're going to do to like land people when we love them in the interview. We're going to take them out to the employee gym. We're going to tell them how cool it is.
That'll put them over the edge, right?
That will put them. And honestly, it has worked. And it's helped us to attract some pretty cool people. People that are very disciplined enough to work out. They see that and they're like, hey, like I'm a disciplined person and I like to be there. So we've attracted some really cool people. And then we're obviously, I have a tendency to like galvanize people into whatever I'm into. So of course I've brought a lot of people and be like, okay, we're working out, we're doing Whole30, we're gonna do whatever like fad we're gonna do, take the next challenge, the workout challenge. But it's been a great culture builder for us. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm glad that he convinced me to put the employee gym in place.
What is one lesson you're still learning?
One lesson I am still learning would be probably just not to worry, right? Not to be anxious about things. I have a tendency to be reactive, right? If we go through a day and the phones are not ringing like I want them to be ringing, or we didn't have enough sales or revenue on the board, or whatever it might be, we lost it. We lost a person, and they, for attribute, whatever's happening. I have a tendency to get a little bit of emotionally charged with that, right? And it can rub off. It can rub off on your team in such insidious ways. I think there's so much wisdom to say that like a leader sets the tone for their organization. And so when a leader comes in and they're reactive or they are emotionally charged, like that permeates. And so one thing I am like consciously working on is making sure that I stay emotionally stable and grounded so that does not negatively affect our organization in any way.
Well, as we wrapped up, we said that we not only wanted this to be a conversation, but we wanted it to be interactive, a show that you not just listen to, but you can also join in. And with that in mind, we're going to head to Kevin. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hi, how are you guys tonight? Or you ladies, excuse me.
We're doing well, thanks.
Well, I just wanted to call. I'm actually a retired but still have an active RMP license. And I just wanted to commend Ashley for your work, not only just as a woman, but just as a patron of the trades. I think that is, as you said, that is for the short time frame anyway, that is certainly AI proof. And
yes, sir.
I commend you for that. And I've been listening to the whole hour, and everything you've said so far sounds like you guys have got a good handle on the business practice of this.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. And I do have a very healthy respect for all men and women in the trades, but the RMPs especially. So thank you for your service to the trade and everything you've done for the communities that you've served. And we're still learning, but it's obviously something that we're still going to keep striving to get better at.
Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate your input. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Glad to be your first caller. You needed a plumber on there.
Yes, sir. Thank awesome. You. If you have questions, you too. If you have questions about starting a business, growing in your career, stepping into leadership, call, ask them. Tell us what industries you want to hear from next. Who should we be sitting down at the table with? You can also follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes moments, updates on upcoming guests. We have them booked out, and we are ready to share with you. Thanks for listening to A Seat at the Table. Thanks, Tiger. Thanks, Christina.